So I'm super pumped to introduce tonight's speaker. Beth is an all-around awesome person that I have had the privilege to know. I'm going to let Beth do her own introduction on the details of her personal journey from the corporate world and just starting her own business and living in alignment with her passions. But from my perspective, it's really been powerful to see Beth's journey kind of blossom over time from the outside perspective. I first met Beth through the Team USA program, both as a coach and a teammate. Beth's a former bodybuilder playing on Team USA for the Outdoor World Championships, as well as 2 Masters tournaments. During those experiences, Beth was a leader both on the rink in her tough defense and stellar athleticism, like no one gets around Beth on D. And in the locker room, which is a really important element to any team. So it's been a real privilege to have that welcoming personality and those leadership skills in the locker room and on those tournaments. So I'm really excited for you to hear, for you all to be here and to hear from Beth and have this conversation about finding passion and purpose. So with that, Beth, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll throw up your first slide and you can get started.
Cool. Thank you so much, Karen. What a humbling experience to be introduced like that. So most people, I think, introduce themselves by what they do. But I'm going to tell you guys about what I do and my job roles and responsibilities and things like that later. But who I am in this world for myself and for other people is goddess, beacon, zeal, joy, and love. And the things that are most important to me and that are really at the core of who I am are inspiration, fierce individualism, intimate connection, and Cuisinere. And what I mean by that is the ability to pull multiple things together to create something really beautiful and special, whatever that may be. And I know that that's kind of a strange, odd way to maybe introduce myself. And I would have never done that before this journey. I wouldn't have thought of myself that way, and I definitely would not have described myself that way. But my journey has shown me that doing that is a lot more authentic. It's a lot more in alignment with me, and I think it gives you guys a little bit more insight into actually who I am than a job title or description. So I'm so happy to be here with you guys. So honored to be asked to speak with you all. And my hope for this is really that we get to have an interaction, and that in sharing my story, it maybe motivates you, maybe inspires you, and that we definitely connect on some level in some way. So during this time, I'm going to share my story, my journey, some of the lessons, some of the insights that have happened for me along the way. And please, jump in, ask questions, interrupt me. You don't have to wait till the end. This can totally be a really informal conversation. So Karen, if you want to go to the next slide. So I shared this picture not just to show you where my athletic career started, back as a 7-year-old pixie playing softball in Eastern Pennsylvania, and not just to show you my cool fashion sense with the red high tops, in case you didn't notice, that's me down there in the corner, but really to highlight my dad. My dad's the guy on the right without the hat, the tall, dark, handsome guy with the sunglasses. And whether he was coaching me or supporting me from the sidelines, my dad was at every single game for every single sport that I ever played during my youth. Can't say the same for my adulthood because I moved away, but I think if I would have stayed nearby, he probably would have been at every one of those games too. But he instilled in me those important life lessons, the ones that I'm sure all of you are familiar with and gained from somebody important in your life through sports too, working hard and being loyal and doing your best and being a good teammate, and that being competitive is great, but it's not always about winning. And my dad had a lot of great sayings growing up. When we were little, one of his favorites was "Good girls get treats." I was extremely highly motivated by ice cream and food, so that was perfect for me. As a teenager, another one of his favorites was "Don't do anything dumb or stupid until the next time I see you." But one that sort of stuck with me like throughout my whole life, and that started as early as this picture, was he used to ask me, "Are you still having fun? Because if it's not fun, then don't play anymore. And when it stops being fun, that's when you know to stop playing." Um, so so Karen, you can take this one off now. So enough about my athletic career beginning and everything I learned from dad, and fast forward to kind of a closer time. But just to give you guys a little bit of background and a little bit more about my story. So I had a really normal, really typical upbringing. Like, I mean, nothing spectacular in any way, just normal and healthy. I graduated from Penn State 1 month, and the next month I started a job with a Fortune 500 big pharmaceutical giant, Merck. Maybe some of you know them, maybe not. I started with them the next month. I had just turned 21. I was really young for my age, or for my you know what I'm trying to say. And so I graduated really young, started this, what to me felt like this huge important like job with this huge important company. And I was determined. I was determined to be successful. I was determined to do everything right. And I even like from a very young age was like, I'm going to retire with this company. Like I'm going to be with them forever. I'm going to do everything that I can to climb the corporate ladder. I'll move wherever I have to. So I started doing all the right things, right? Like I started checking all of those boxes that we all sort of maybe think of to check when it comes to, you know, what success looks like. So, you know, it was like there were raises and there were job promotions and, you know, multiple different roles and moving from one place to another and buying homes and all kinds of great traveling and, you know, all those typical things that come with climbing the corporate ladder. The job is actually what had me move to Pittsburgh, where I started playing hockey and fell in love with hockey. The job then moved me to Philly, where I met some of you that maybe are on the call right now. And then the job moved me to California, where I am now, and where I still play hockey. So the company was great, the people were great, the pay and the benefits were great. Like everything I was doing was great. Like I was living this great life, seemingly, until all of a sudden it wasn't. Like I can't exactly explain what happened, but I started to hear this like little voice in my head or have this like feeling in my gut where like despite all of that great stuff, something just wasn't right. And it was hard because all of that stuff that I should be appreciative for, that I should be grateful for, that I should be like, you know, just thankful to have in my life, it felt like it wasn't enough and it wasn't quite right. And I carried a lot of shame and a lot of embarrassment and a lot of guilt because of having that feeling and because of feeling like this isn't right or this isn't enough. It was like, oh, but I should just be grateful. I should just be happy. Stop thinking that you deserve more. And it really scared me. Like it scared me to feel that way. It scared me to think about leaving. At that point, I had been with the company for 16 years. And remember, I started when I was 21. So my whole adult life was growing up with this one company culture, growing up with the security of a paycheck, growing up with like knowing what the next step was. And all of a sudden I was feeling like, this isn't exactly right. And I think I was mostly scared of what it would mean about me, like what people would think if I were to leave. Like, how could you possibly leave all of this great stuff? How could you leave this great life? How could you not be appreciative for this? And like, how stupid could you be? You know, like that's what was coming up for me. So I pushed that voice down. I ignored it. And about a year later, after like first recognizing it, and it's funny because I can remember really specifically being out to dinner with friends. We were actually in Center Valley. I had come home for a holiday or something, and I remember really specifically wanting to talk about that and being embarrassed with my best friends, with one of those friends who was in that picture from when I was a pixie at 7 years old, and being afraid to share that with her. So fast forward a year later, I ended up getting promoted. Like the company reorged and they placed me in a higher position with higher pay than where I was. And people had just been let go. Like people had been let go that I felt like were more deserving, more tenured, more experienced. And they put me in this position that I didn't even want. And I'm like, that's okay. Like, I'll figure it out. I felt like I was in so over my head. And 6 months into that position, I just realized like I hated it. I hated the position. I felt disconnected from the mission of the company that I had loved for so long. I felt disconnected from what skills I wanted to bring to the table, what talents I thought that I could really use in that role. And I felt like I was doing terrible work. Like I was just not connected to it at all. And it sounds awful even now to say it to me. They kept rewarding me. And I was like, stop rewarding me. Like I remember being at a year-end review where I said, I don't deserve this. Take this away. Like I'm not doing the job that I know that I can do because I don't feel connected. And it was the first time that I really spoke out about it. And at that time, I had started to get really bad migraines, which I've gotten at different times throughout my life, but not this with this regularity or this severity. For the job role that I was promoted into, I had to travel a lot. My territory was Arizona and Nevada. So I was flying at least once a week, sometimes more. And I started to get severe anxiety before flights, on flights, and horrible migraines. And it was like my body telling me, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're not meant to do this anymore. So I finally started listening to all of this and I started to explore like, well, what could be next? What else could I do? What maybe would all these skills that I have translate to? Because if I was going to leave this company that I've been with for 16 years, that I've been promoted up the ladder and, you know, had all these benefits with and everything, it better be worth it, right? Like it better be the right thing. At least that's what was in my head. So that voice that I was embarrassed to acknowledge had been whispering things like, coach, be a coach, coaching. And I was like, what? And I came across coaching, like executive coaching. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is the thing. This can be my thing that I leave Merck for, that I can be amazing at. Because when I looked back at my career, the thing that I was always really connected to was supporting other people. And I'm like, that's what I can do as a coach, is I can support other people in becoming, you know, what they want and who they want. And I can do that every day, all day long. So what did I do? I started researching training programs and coaching programs. And I found this incredible year-long ontological coaching program that promised to be transformative. And I was like, that's it, that's the one. And ontological actually means, I had no idea before I started doing this research what ontological means, but ontology is the study of the nature of one's being. So it's all about who are you being in this world? Not what are you doing, but who are you being? And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Because now I can marry this like, you know, emotional, sensitive thing with, you know, the executive experience. And I can bring this all together and this is going to be awesome. So it was really transformational. It was huge. It put me in places with myself that I never even knew existed. And it started just like tearing down different walls and barriers and realizing all these self-limiting beliefs that I had and all of these things that I believed to be true that maybe weren't. They were just sort of stories in my head. So halfway through this program, I decided to quit my job at Merck. I had been there for 17 years at the time. They offered me tons of things to stay. So they made it really difficult, basically, for me to go through with that decision. But I knew I had to leave. Like I just knew that it wasn't right anymore. And fortunately, I had the support of my partner. And he was like, Beth, I don't want to see you miserable and crying every day anymore. Like, I just want you to be happy. And so I knew it was worth it. I knew it was worth to leave because I thought I had found my purpose. Like I thought I had found my thing. So it's what I was meant to do in this world. So I started my business, my coaching business. I graduated the program. I felt totally transformed and powerful, and business was booming. Like business was good. And so much, like I had these amazing clients that were doing amazing things, like creating their own businesses and really like changing the way that they were seeing the world and just doing these great things. I even stayed on with that coach training program as a mentor coach, to support other coaches that would be going through the program. And again, it all seemed great, like everything's going good, until all of a sudden it wasn't. And I'm like, shit, here I am again. Like, what is going on? I was so confused. I was like, this is supposed to be the thing. Like I thought my purpose was supporting other people, and now I'm doing it. So why am I not feeling fulfilled? Why do I still feel disconnected? And why am I starting to have these even more serious health issues? I got this really horrible rash over my entire face that just it started on my chin and it started creeping and it went all the way up my face. For 7 months, no doctor could diagnose it. No medicine helped. Everything just made it worse. At the same time, that anxiety all started to come back, but in a different way. I also started to feel serious depression, and I had never felt anything like that in my life. And it scared the shit out of me. Like, there were days that I couldn't get out of bed. There were days that I couldn't get a shower. And what scared me the most was I had lost all of my like care and connection to anything. Like I didn't care about anything. And I was like, that's not who I am. That's not who I know myself to be. That's not who you guys know me to be. Those of you that know me, right? Like it was this really scary place. So it was like feeling like you don't matter, like nothing that you do matters. I had no energy, no drive, and it was heartbreaking. And, you know, there was a time in my life where I would have said, getting help or needing a therapist or needing medication, that makes you weak and that's just a bunch of bullshit. Well, it came at me hard and I was like, I need some help. And it was probably one of the strongest things that I've ever done, was getting help for myself at that point. So during that time, I started researching depression and anxiety, and I started looking into like, why is this happening? You know, why am I going through all of this? Why did I think I found my thing, but I'm still feeling this other way? And I found this woman on LinkedIn. Her name's Kira Day, and she was talking about psychological indicators of well-being. And Karen, you can put up the other slide that says RAMP. And it was this like quick video that was describing RAMP. And I had never heard of this before, so I was really intrigued. So RAMP stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for Relatedness, Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose. And so relatedness is basically like, do you have a trust-based community that you're a part of and that you feel like a sense of belonging to? Autonomy is, do you feel like you have control over your decisions and your choices? Mastery is basically like, maybe you're not necessarily there yet, but can you be on a path to master something? And then purpose is, are you part of something that's like bigger than just you? And so as I was listening to her talk, I realized like, holy shit, I'm off on all of those things. And it was really, it was a huge like awareness that happened for me, because as she was talking, she was saying, if even one of those things is off just a little bit or out of alignment for you, you can feel problems, because these are psychological indicators of well-being. So, you know, your well-being could potentially be off in some way. And some things that I forgot to mention were, in the process of quitting my job and starting this transformational program, I also moved in with my boyfriend, which meant leaving my house, leaving my community, moving about 45 minutes away. Oh, by the way, he has 2 teenage daughters that I was now living with as well. So I left my career, I left my job, I left my home. I was a bodybuilder at the time. And so I had been doing that for about 5 years and working out with the same crew of women and the same trainer for 5 years. So I left all of them too. And I left this community, you know, this community where I was actually one of the, one of the coaches basically for that. And then I lost somebody very close to me. And then I lost my dog, my dog who was 16 years old at the time and had been with me since he was 8 weeks old. So there was a lot of change happening in my life, a lot of change, a lot of things going on, a lot of things that, despite finding this business opportunity and thinking that I found my thing, it was just, there was a lot that threw off all of those indicators. So I realized like I had to figure out, beyond just taking medication, beyond seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist, like I had to figure out like, how do I get back to me? Like, how do I get back to being in a really healthy place, mentally, physically, emotionally? And all of my therapists said the same thing. They were like, your mental health is the most important thing. And what you need to do is approach this from like a really therapeutic way. Like, what brings you joy? What brings you joy? Do more of that. So despite feeling so lost, I decided like, hey, I got to figure out like who I actually am, because I changed all of these things and there must have been a reason for that. Like there must have been something that wasn't right. So it was almost as if those 16 years, 17 years at Merck, I was wearing this like corporate mask or this corporate like uniform or armor and showing up a certain way that I thought I had to be. And then I went through this training program and like that armor came down, but not only did the armor come down, but like all these other pieces of me, like it was as if somebody like pulled a string on a sweater. And next thing you know, I was like standing there naked. Like I felt so vulnerable and so, just weird. So I decided like, I got to get to know myself again. So I really, I took some time. I decided to lower my workload. I just decided to start to do things that really just bring me joy. I had lost my dog, so I had this huge hole in my heart. So I started walking dogs and like boarding dogs, and in the process ended up creating, not really trying to, a huge dog walking business, which I have since had to walk away from because it got too big. But I basically just gave myself time and space, time to think, time to be, to not have to like actually do anything. And so I realized during that time that not doing anything and not being productive was actually really hard for me. I put such a value and such a self-worth on what I was doing. It was as if I had to accomplish something to be worth anything. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wow, I'm in this space where I feel like I'm not enough. And that's a scary space to be too. So through this space, I basically just realized like, what does bring me joy? What does make me happy? What do I actually want in this life? And what it comes down to is I want to inspire, I want to connect, I want to create, and I want a life and a lifestyle that is made of play, ease, and balance. And I look over here because I have like a Post-it note that literally reminds me of that every day. And so I got into like this new and different side of me, and I realized that coaching is one piece. Coaching is one piece of how I can express all of that and be that in the world, but it's not the only thing. And I realized that the way that I was running my business was how somebody else was defining success and like what it should be, how it should look, like what success actually is. And I realized like, that's not how I want to do it. So I started doing it my way. Like I lowered my client load. I was really specific with what clients I wanted to work with. And I made a bunch of other little changes, and my coaching got better and I was a ton like happier. And all of a sudden, all of these other opportunities and experiences that were in line with inspiring, connecting, creating, and that life of play, ease, and balance, like all of these other opportunities started presenting themselves. So I still have 2 dogs that I watch because they've become part of our family, Stella and Maya. And I still have my coaching business. It's just a lot smaller now. And I have a couple other really cool things that I do. So that woman, Kira, who I learned about RAMP from, I partner with her at her organization called the Passion Center, which is all about bringing people to their passion and bringing their passion to the world. So for them, I'm basically a startup coach, and we have a program that has people identify what their passion is and then leads them through a whole curriculum that basically identifies how to make a viable business out of that passion. So that's pretty cool that I get to help people do that. And then also in the meantime, our rink and our hockey league that we played in out here, it actually, it came up for lease, and the guy who had it decided he wasn't going to keep it. So my partner and I, long story short, my partner and I and one other guy decided we're going to take it over. So now I also manage the facility with them, and we run all the leagues, and we have this huge vision to build 2 rinks and to have it be a destination. So one day I'm going to see all of you out here playing hockey at one of our tournaments or clinics or something like that. And yeah, we run youth leagues, adult leagues, clinics. That we hosted the NBHL this year, which was amazing. The Ducks are our partners, the Kings are our partners, and like I said, we're in process of building 2 new rinks with another strategic partner of ours, the Empower Play Project, who are an amazing company that basically is all about empowering, motivating, and ultimately, educating, motivating, and ultimately empowering youth and communities through participation in sports. And so we started connecting with them, and just like last week, I actually accepted a role with them. I'm excited to announce as their VP of Corporate Social Responsibility. So, so it's pretty incredible. And it's amazing because if you would have asked me like a year ago, 2 years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago that my life would look like this, I would have never possibly guessed this. All that I could see was graduate from school, get a corporate job, do the corporate thing. I had no idea, even when I started my coaching business, that these types of opportunities existed, because I thought that was the thing. And what I realized is like, it wasn't the thing, it was a thing. And it was a stepping stone. And it was a necessary part of my story. And even the depression, which I am so over. I'm very healthy right now, happy to, and have been for a while, off medication, all of that. Even that was part of my story. It's part of the lessons, it's part of the learning, it's part of what had to happen for me to get to this place where I could, where I would have the skills and the knowledge and the experience to appreciate and actually like be part of all of these other things. And even to be able to feel the passion and fulfillment that I feel now. So one thing that was constant through all of this was hockey. Like through all the years, through all the moves, through all the changes, like hockey was always there, right? It was a place that I could be myself. It was a place that I found community. It was a place where I found fun. It was a place where I found my partner. Kevin and I met as defensive partners on one of our teams. Which is kind of funny. But, I had lunch with one of my former Merck colleagues not that long ago. And I said to him, I'm like, hey, could you have ever imagined that like, this is what I would be doing right now? He's like, totally. And I was floored. My jaw dropped. I'm like, are you kidding? And he's like, yeah, this makes total sense to me. Like, this is who you are. And it was like a slap in the face in a good way of like, here I had this image of myself needing to like fit a mold, be this certain way, fit into this corporate thing. And really like he saw me, like he saw the real me. He saw that goddess, beacon, zeal, joy, love that made this all that I'm doing now like the perfect fit. So we're all taught, I think, by our parents, by society, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, by cultural norms, what success is, how success should be measured, what we should do to be successful. And unknowingly, we fit ourselves into this box, we fit ourselves into this mold, we do all those things that we should do so that we can prove that we belong. And it's like, that's all that human beings really want, is to belong. And like, we're really good at playing that game and winning at that game. And as competitors, because I know we're all competitors here, we also like to win. right? We like to win. We're not afraid of hard work. We're extremely driven. We're motivated. We have this incredible work ethic to do whatever it takes to be the best we can be. And these are all amazing, amazing qualities. They help us on and off the rink. But that will only get you so far if that's actually the game that you're trying to play. So if you want to go to the next level, if you're feeling like you're not fulfilled or you're not fully happy, you know, the interesting thing is you have to do what we're not taught. You have to find out truly and deeply who you are. Like, nobody teaches us how to know ourselves better. Nobody teaches us to do all of these things. But in getting to know yourself better, you can remove certain limiting beliefs. You can remove blocks that you have, and you can really fulfill on a much deeper level than maybe you even thought possible. There's this book that I wanted to share with you guys. It's called A Little Book on the Human Shadow. It's by Robert Bly. And it talks about how when you're a child, you're born like perfect, whole, and complete, and we just let our light shine 360 degrees around us. And then we get told no. We get told no for the first time, and that no tells us that that piece of us is not allowed. It's not right. It's not appropriate. So we take that piece and we shove it in an invisible bag. And then every time there's another no said, we keep shoving it into the invisible bag. And before you know it, there's only a teeny little sliver of who we actually are left, and everything else is in that invisible bag. And what I'm realizing is a lot of people spend the first half of their life filling that bag, and then you spend the second half of your life trying to unpack it to get back to knowing who you really are. And it's like that, you know, that old saying of like a midlife crisis. Like, that's what I think it is. So this is like my version of a midlife crisis that's actually been perfect. So if life's a game and you're playing by those rules, like seemingly like it's a sure way to win, right? But is winning everything? Like, is success everything? Especially if it means that parts of you have to stay in an invisible little bag. So my challenge to you, or my invitation to you, is to figure out what game you want to play, to figure out what rules you want to create and follow, and then figure out what is it that you want to, how you want to define success. Everything in my mind boils down to two emotions: love or fear. And when I say fear, I don't mean things like spiders or heights or that kind of thing. I mean like the fear of who you might be, or who people might think that you are, or find out that you are. And so many times, without even knowing it, we act from that place. And that's what shoves us in that box and shoves us in that mold, and ultimately like thinking that we're going to belong. But succeeding but not feeling fulfilled, is that really success? And that's what I found through my journey, and through most of my clients' journeys, is some similar flavor of all of that. So I don't know about you guys, but like, that's not really the game that I want to play, is defining success from somebody else's, you know, perspective anymore. So I want to define it for myself. Like, what are my shoulds? What are my expectations? Not from somebody else to define like what my happiness would be. So the number one question I get, and Karen, you can put up the next slide, is like, okay, Beth, well, how do you connect with yourself? And like, how do you find a better, how do you get to these details? Well, it's not easy. It takes a lot of work. Here's a couple places to start. Connect with yourself, meditate, write. I know a lot of people maybe do that or don't do it, but journaling is one of the best ways to actually get to know your feelings. Like, as uncomfortable as it might be, if you don't do it, just start, just write. Nobody's judging it. Like, just see what comes out. You might be surprised. Another thing is really listen to your emotions and notice your emotions. Emotions are the most amazing messengers. Every single emotion is an opportunity to know yourself better. For example, if you're feeling anger, that's telling you something. Most likely, feeling anger is a sense that there's an unmet need that you have that's not being met. And it's your version of a temper tantrum. It's the adult version of a temper tantrum because you need something and it's not being met. But do you actually know what that need is? Do you actually know how to get it met? So just an example, like paying attention to the emotions that you have They're such great messengers. And the thing is, so another thing, like try new things. Try new things. Like if you haven't tried it before, how do you know if you like it or if it's meant to be part of your path? Or think about the things that you used to do as a kid and that you no longer do, and go back and try some of those things. I used to color every single day when I was a kid. Color every single day. I actually wanted to be a graphic designer, but I was afraid that I would fail, so I didn't pursue that. I pursued marketing and international business instead. Now I color every single day because it's fun and it's relaxing and I love it. So like, try something new, try something old, try changing your routine. Like we get so set in our ways and in our habits and our ways of doing things that we don't even know if it serves us. Try something different and see how you feel. See how that serves you. The other thing is allow yourself to dream. Like when was the last time that you thought about like, what do you actually want? Like if you couldn't fail, if no one was watching, what would you do? Who would you be? Like for me, that exercise was really, really hard when I first started because I couldn't allow myself to dream. It took a lot. It still takes a lot of practice for me to stretch and to go beyond just what I see and what I know. But allow yourself to dream, and dream big. Like nobody's judging it. The other thing is answer the question, and for reals, what do I want? Not what does your mom want for you, not what does your partner want, not what does your boss want, your friends, etc. You. Like, what is it that you want? And take radical responsibility in owning that. Like, you are truly the only one that is responsible for making yourself happy. Like, for me, that was another big thing. Like, taking responsibility that I need to be the one, like, it's going to come from me. I'd also say, look at where you spend your time, your money, and your energy. Those are great indicators of what you're valuing. And then see if that actually lines up to what you value and what you want to be in this world. If your money and your energy and your time aren't in alignment with what you actually value and prioritize, then you might want to do some shifting and think about like how to make that happen. I also recommend taking a values inventory. Like think about from a really honest, super honest, true, authentic place, like what do you value? Again, like not what does your parents value, not what did they tell you to value. And that can sometimes be a hard one to identify the difference between, but not what your parents, not what society, not what your job, organization, friends, whatever tell you, but like, what do you truly value? Because that can be a huge sign of where you want to be and what you want to be doing. And then also like get support. There's tons of stuff out there. There's lots of coaches, there's lots of tools, and there's just so much out there to help support you. And it can be really fun. So, take advantage of that. So if you go to the next slide, Karen, some of the big learnings that I had along the way were, it's not necessarily about finding that one thing, right? It could be many things. So maybe stop looking for just one. Listen to your gut. Like our bodies are so smart, like smarter than we even realize. And it's going to send you messages. It's a matter of like, are you listening and picking them up or not? Like, are you seeing the signs as you're driving down the freeway? And if you're not listening, I guarantee the signs will just get bigger and louder, and eventually it'll hit you over the head in some way. But like my intent and my hope for all of you is that it doesn't get to the point that you reach like it did for me. The other thing is like, there's no right or wrong. You really can't fail. Don't ever forget that you can start late, you can start over, you can be unsure, you can look and act differently, you can try and fail, and you can still succeed despite all of those things. It truly is not about the journey, it's about the destination. I have to say, like, in writing this and in thinking about this presentation, I realized how much I've done in the last 2 to 3 years, because I only left Merck in the middle of 2018. And I'm like, holy shit, I've done a lot, and I wouldn't trade any of it. It's been like a whole lifetime wrapped up into a couple of years. And it's been magical. I mean, and so it really is about the journey, not the destination. And lastly, just like Dad said, like, if it's not fun anymore, why are you doing it? I had no idea it was actually that simple, but it is. And all of this, including hockey, is still super fun to me, and that's why I'm still doing it. So I just have one more thing before I end. So I wanted to give you guys a couple things. You've been so wonderful in like being here with me tonight. I wanted to give you a couple offers or invitations. So first of all, I love connection. It's part of my core. So please feel free, email me, text me, call me. I would love to connect with you at any time about anything, like literally. The second thing is, when I told you those 5 things, goddess, beacon, zeal, joy, and love, that are who I am in this world, that's what I consider to be my essence. And that's an exercise that I go through with all of my clients to identify like what their essence is. It's about an hour and a half long conversation. And I love it. And I think it's a beautiful gift to give people. So I'm offering it to you. If you're interested, you want to learn your essence, call me, text me. We'll set up some time, like no pressure, no charge, nothing like that. It's truly just, if you're interested, it's a really fun exercise. And then the other thing I wanted to let you guys know about is next Thursday, the Passion Center is hosting an event called Passion Nights. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Blue Zones. Has anybody ever heard of Blue Zones? Blue Zones there's 5 areas in the world where people live to be 100 years old plus. And there's been a ton of research done by Dan Bittner about these blue zones to find out, why are these people not only living longer and healthier, but why are they so happy? And he found out that there are actually like 9 indicators of this long, healthy life. And surprisingly, diet and exercise are not either of those indicators. So there's all of these other things. And there are things like community. Like, do you have a trust-based community that you're a part of? And so there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but Blue Zones, really interesting topic. We happen to have not Dan, but Nick, his brother, who's the VP of products, coming to talk about, he's going to share some stories from those different places. I thought you guys might be interested. So if you're interested in that, I couldn't figure out how to get the link because it's a really long link and you wouldn't be able to write it down. If you're interested, just text me and I'll send you the link for that. And with that, like, I would love to hear if you guys have any like questions or any thoughts. But with that, I'm complete. Thanks for listening and being here with me tonight. What's up, Lisa?
I wanted to say thank you, and all of that resonated so much. I'm so glad I got to hear your story. And I think I'm definitely going to take you up on everything that you just said, because I think, honestly, I think what you said is a lot of what I've been through too. And I think I've hopped around jobs a lot, so I think that's the only difference. Gone back to grad school, get out of where I've been on, corporate marketing, and I'm back in it. I've quit my job, the whole writing thing, and I'm back in it. So it's like I keep stepping out of it and then getting right back in because it's the easy thing to do. And I think one of the things that I struggle with is risk taking. To your point, like, my fear is failure, I think. So how do I get out of that kind of mindset?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the more that you talk about this kind of thing, the more that you realize like it's more common than you know. And that's a very, very normal and common fear that almost everybody has. And there's usually some self-limiting belief, something that happened in your childhood, like no matter how amazing your parents were or weren't, you know, there are things that happen to all of us, and we learn certain ways to be based off of that. And then we adapt these habits and behaviors. So there's lots of work that you could do to support you in getting over that. So I don't have like I'm actually not sure if you were like asking me or if you were just saying that, but but it's totally normal. And I really just want to acknowledge you for saying it, because I think that that's like the first step, is even acknowledging like, hey, this is a pattern, this is a feeling that I'm having, and I want to do something about it. Until you acknowledge that there's actually something that's not like working for you or serving you, you're never going to find a solution. You're never going to find another way. So fear of failure is huge for a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, Karen, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, like, it doesn't go away, but there are things that you can do to recognize that you have so much more power than you realize. And there are things that you can do to step into that power and face the fear more often, or, you know, be like San was saying, be more risk adverse. So I would love, Lisa, to continue that conversation with you, maybe offline, if you're interested.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Thanks.
We have time for maybe one more question. And then I don't know, Beth, if you have a few more minutes, we could always wrap up. And if anyone wants to stay on for a few, we could also answer a couple more. So any questions before we officially wrap?
Well, I'll add this one thing. There's no expiration on my offer to everybody, and I hope you guys, you know, feel free to share and to reach out. And like I said, I love connection, so don't feel like, you know, if something hits you even like a year from now, like, call me. It would be great to connect.
Yeah, that's so generous. Thank you so much, Beth. You can really hear kind of the passion that comes through in your journey, and you really shared like a lot of pieces behind, like, you know, what you did, and then the pieces of what you felt in those moments too. Like, I should have been feeling this, but I was feeling this. And to me, that's super powerful, because I think there's a lot of like, you can look at someone's life and be like, oh, look at what they're doing, but like, hearing how you were feeling about it, and just the like scripts that play in your mind that are kind of like challenging, or that make you not want to take those steps, is really, really powerful. So thank you for sharing all that.